Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. So, I want to go back to where this is supposed to start. So, this whole episode is going to be broken up into this vlog or whatever this is going to be broken up into 3 parts. It's going to be me talking about what I just did to try to merge and leave cliffhangers for movies 2 and 3, and also what I'm being majorly inspired by. But before we get into that, I want to start here. I have a playlist, and that playlist will probably become public so that people can start to see this, because the whole reason that I'm making these vlogging videos, posting on TikTok, posting on YouTube, posting content like this and doing all this is so that the same way MCU fans can go to comic books and old movies and look at stuff and be like, oh man, they was talking about this back in Iron Man 2, and they was to mention this in Thor the Dark World and things of that nature. I want there to be a record of this information, and also so that, say, I want to produce this soon. I want to produce this in my 20s. I'd like to produce this now. But let's say something crazy happens. Let's say life hits you with a curveball, as life does, and I end up having to put this project on the shelf for a couple years. All these videos allow for me and the team to go back over this and recomb through all this information, refresh my mind on what 20-year-old Michael was conceptualizing with visually, with images, with writtenly, with character developments and story beats and things of that nature, audibly with the musics and soundtrack pieces that I wanted to use for this, that are inspiring this rather. And then with this, just physically talking about the story as a whole. And I wanted to go back because I have a tendency, I've done this with several different series, I have several different universes within my own expansive multiverse of storylines, from the Millennium universe, the Earth 7 universe, My Hero fan fiction. There's a couple others, but those are the big ones. The biggest one of them all is the Elementals. That one goes on forever. It's like a 10-season type of situation. I've got hundreds of characters that I've written, and I've been writing that since I was 6. I was writing that from the ages of probably about 6 years old to probably about 17, maybe even 18 years old. So nearly over 10 years of my life I spent on that project, creating and world building this entire vast universe and world, and all these powers and this long history and everything. And hopefully one day I'll get to pick that back up in some regard and produce that in some shape, form, or fashion. But as of right now, what I'm focused on is this Power Rangers thing. This is where I want to start. And where the start of this happened was, moving into the second part, is that I wanted to talk about Creed 3. I went to go see Creed 3 back in March, and that movie forever changed the way that I look at certain films and certain pieces of art. It was such a great film. It might just be a masterpiece. Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors were amazing together. And then on top of that, the way that Jordan wrote and directed and portrayed this film, I go as far as to say Creed 3 is an anime film. Creed 2 and Creed 1, no, those are just boxing movies. This is an anime film. This is straight up some of the imagery, some of the scenes. Like, if you just take the story beats as for what it is, you're like, yo, this is a shonen anime character. That's all this is. And it's like, I took that to heart. And a lot of when I started creating this playlist for the first film, Rise, it was a lot of Creed 3 in there, especially 3 very specific songs that play 3 very integral parts of the storyline of this training montage of them preparing to fight the villain after getting their tails whooped twice now in the film, and then a second scene where they're actually mid-fight and there's this moment of them like getting the upper hand and Nova realizing that, oh, these kids didn't come here to play this time. And then this third one of what's it called? Of the final comeuppance of the film, and the only morphing sequence of the film actually happening, and how that all plays out. And so this is where I'm getting into. I'm speaking in very hypotheticals, because here's the problem with the records and why in these vlogs is that by me doing this, some of these videos are gonna have to get taken down at some point, at certain points, for the simple fact of is that it will spoil everything that will happen in the film. So eventually this video or this portion of the video will have to get taken down, simply for the fact of that it's like, I'm saying too much right now. So the ending, the 2 really big parts of the film was that I wanted to mesh together these Power Rangers, because something that I think that Bloodline of the Grid and Shattered Past and Shattered Past and Bloodline of the Grid do it pretty well, and some of the actual Ranger seasons like hint at it and bring it up. Dino Thunder does it, Operation Overdrive does it, Megaforce tried to, but they failed horrendously in my personal opinion. And these guys all did this thing where it was like, because of how many various Ranger teams there was this interconnectivity. And similar to the CW, you see these small glimpses of it, but I never understood that. I never understood why instances like, yo, if, like, here's my thing. Forever Red is a great thing, but there's a big plot hole with Forever Red. And for those of you who don't know what Forever Red is, Forever Red is a storyline that was made in like 2001. It was like the 10-year anniversary of Power Rangers or something like that. And was it 2001 then? Because 2001 would have been like 9 years. 8 years maybe. I don't know. 2001, 2002? So maybe 2002, 2003. It was either 2002, probably 2003. That would have been 10 years. 10-year anniversary. So they had 10 Red Rangers team up, and they did all this episode. This is nothing from this was pulled from the Super Sentai Japanese counterpart. Unlike all the other episodes of the Wild Force series and pretty much every episode of Power Rangers, the scenes of them in their suits are usually pulled from Super Sentai footage. That's what that usually is. No, they got their own suits. They got they built their own sets. They did all this. They did everything from scratch, and that's it. I could go on a rampage about Forever Red. But the thing is about Forever Red is that there's this massive plot. There's this huge threat to Earth, and Tommy Oliver, one of the oldest veteran Red Rangers there is, the only person that's older than him is Jason, who's in the special as well too, and they assemble every Red Ranger that they know of to try to go on this top secret mission to the moon to stop this army that is trying to resurrect an old Zord and all these things. And if the Zord is resurrected, it has enough firepower to destroy the entire planet in one fell swoop. So that is the problem. That's the thing. My thing is like, all right, cool. So like, if y'all have access to y'all Ranger powers, by some Herculean logic, y'all have access to all of your Ranger powers. Out of the 10 Rangers that were there, they came from respectively 8 different teams, I think. 9 different teams. I forgot about the Alien Rangers. I don't really count them. 9 different teams, respectively. Out of those 9 teams, only 2.5 of them, maybe because of how because Mighty Morphin, the cast of Mighty Morphin lost their Mighty Morphin powers, and then became the Zeo Rangers, and then they became the Turbo Rangers, and then they got themselves all replaced with new people who then became the second Turbo team for the back half of the season, and then became the In Space Rangers. So let's just go ahead and remove Turbo altogether. That's 8 now. Then you depending on, everything, you could have enough people where you could hypothetically do Zeo and carry the 1. Yeah, you could do Zeo and, if you do the math properly, you could do Zeo and what's it called? And Mighty Morphin all together. You just wouldn't have a white or green Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, which are 6 Rangers in their own regard. So it's like, or a gold Zeo Ranger. You wouldn't have them. So that's what that is. So you at those 2 teams, In Space, Lost Galaxy, Lightspeed Rescue, Time Force, maybe Time Force. We'll count them as an iffy. That's like a half team. And Wild Force, Power Rangers Wild Force. That's 6.5, 7 teams, 6.5. Let's do 6, 7 times 5. That's 35 Rangers. So you decide, let's get 10 people and go handle business. Cool, great. They handled their business. They did their job right. 35 people? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying about that. And here's the thing. The series is inspired by the visual aesthetic of Creed and the storyline. It's inspired by the attempt and this jumpstart of the fan community with series like Bloodline of the Grid, Shatter Past, Power Rangers Unworthy, all of those guys and what they're doing. But then because of how much I started thinking about it, it's also inspired by Forever Red. My little brother, who is 9 years old, he looks nothing like me in my personal opinion, but he is the spitting image of what I was at 9 years old. He knows everything about Power Rangers. Well, not everything. Yeah, I know everything, but not everything. And he is a huge Power Rangers, Transformers, little bit of Voltron. One of my other brothers is into Voltron more than he is, but he's a nerd. He's a nerd through and through. That's what it is at the end of the day. That's what he is. So he was sitting up one day and happened to turn on Forever Red, and I had things to do. So what do you think I did? Do you think I acted like a sane, actual adult and, went about my day? And I had things to do, so I went about my day and I continued to persist and do all the responsibilities of an active adult? Or do you think I sat down and watched Forever Red? I sat down and watched Forever Red, and I noticed something. This is a Wild Force episode with little to no interaction with the main Wild Force cast. It's just Cole. And from his eyes, you are as a viewer either just now meeting or realizing, there's so many more Power Rangers out there. And all of these guys show up and it's all of these cameo appearances. And to hear more, and then the storyline itself about this veteran Red Ranger, the fact that their history was so rich that that Andros described it as a veteran Red Ranger called us all and he assembled us all together for a secret mission on the moon. And he asked me to get every Red Ranger you can find on Earth, bring them. That's why Lightspeed Rescue, that's why Wes and Eric went to go find Cole because they had been given the call and they were like, we actually got a new guy. Yeah. We'll go pick him up. We'll meet you at the NASA air site thing. You know what I'm saying? And it was this thing of you got to see that everybody was doing their own thing. We had already seen that Wes and Eric had taken the Silver Guardians to the next level. And honestly, that was probably the pre-foundational version of what will become SPD/Time Force, and I like to think that, and I still keep that to this day, and that's a part of the universe as a whole. I took that from Forever Red. On top of that, then you have this aspect of these Rangers and all this history and everything. I took that aspect. There are a couple other series, especially the ones that have more legacy ones. Stuff like Mystic Force, Power Rangers, Samurai. What else is a really good... What's a legacy? There's one more legacy. Ninja Storm. All three of those are like, you don't know when or how these teams got their Ranger powers. The Ranger powers were less created or found or forged. They were just given to these individuals specifically at that specific time. Let's find... power cord. Boom. I like it. Boom, we got action. Okay, yeah, and it was this thing of, oh, what's it called? It was this mixture of histories. And the crazy part about it was like, and series like Samurai and Ninja Storm and Mystic Force, they all come from the same general background. These guys are Power Rangers, and this is the current iteration of said team. But the powers that they were given, those powers have existed for a unsurmountable amount of time. Powered by magic, powered by symbol power, powered by ninjutsu powers, whatever it may be. It just so happens that that current iteration is of, this is the current iteration of that, you know? Unlike the other ones where it was like, Zordon made another set of morphers, and this is that team and what they did. The Wild Force morphers the same way. We don't know how long the Wild Force morphers have been around. We just know they've been around. Unlike SPD or Dino Thunder or Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, where these were forged and they have a date behind them as to specific times when they were used and who they were used by. These are generational things that could or could not have been used over the years, and there's no specific dates given. Not that Power Rangers has ever been good about giving dates at all. Man, they are terrible about that. They just make up history whenever they want to. So, with that being established about those exceptions, once you get to Wild Force, that's my cutoff. Because then that gives me room to, it gave me a room to do three things. Because there are currently like 4 eras of Power Rangers. There is the Zordon post-Zordon era, the original 10 seasons, Mighty Morphin in 1993 to 2003's Wild Force when that ended. Then you have everything post-2003, Ninja Storm up until RPM. All of those are what I like to call the Disney era. It's called, referred to by the Disney era. I like to call it the Alt era as well too, because Ninja Storm was the first time you ever saw a 5-man team that started as a 3-man team. It was strange. It was a new concept, and they continued this trend with Dino Thunder, with Jungle Fury as well too. I think there's one more. Oh, later on they did Beast Morphers, and that was like that too. But it was a 3-man team that expanded out, and then you gain extra Rangers that would go into a 5- and 6-man team eventually. But it started as a 3-man instead of a 5-man like it usually does. And all of them are so different. Ninja Storm is this like, well, the title kind of tells you everything. They were literally just ninjas protecting the city. Then you had Power Rangers RPM, where they were in another dimension, and the world is a post-apocalyptic era, and it had these weird Fast and Furious vibes to them. Then you had Operation Overdrive, that if you look at that show properly, it really had some like Indiana Jones, later Fast and Furious, like Fast 7, Fast 8, like a Mission Impossible vibes going on. That was what I got from Operation Overdrive at times. And then they mixed that in with aliens because Power Rangers. And you mix that in within the Harry Potter of the series. Literally, it's brought up like they have wands in the series and they cast spells through their cell phones all the time. You don't like it was this constant thing of like they switched it up all the time. And then you got your cop show, SPD, one of the easily one of the most notable, if not one of the best in the series. And the Disney era is just full of that. There's no, not to say that because the Zordon era went from space to intergalactic to time travel in like 4 seasons. They did not take a break on that whatsoever. Every season is Power Rangers is different. But while all of those took place in a somewhat grounded, connected universe, the Disney era is very broken up. And until you got to Operation Overdrive, you never knew if the series you were watching connected to the previous. Operation Overdrive cleared up all that history and tied back to the post-Zordon era. So I like to use those two series where it's like the storyline that we're taking place in the universe that it's happening, we've gotten to boom, Wild Force. Then there was a really big calamity. That calamity in the early 2000s left the world with no Power Rangers. And now as of 2023, there has not been a Power Ranger in 20 plus years. There has not been access to the morphing grid by Power Rangers in 20 plus years. Then, because of the alternate universe and different things, because of that 20-year gap and me rewriting that history, things like legacies from Ninja Storm, that whole thing, SPD from this alternate dimension, the formation of a new SPD, of this universe's version of SPD, all those things are starting to take place. And because of the brokenness of the Disney era as a whole, and because of what I've done with that gap in that 20-year no morph period, it gives me room to expand and create. And this is my problem. This is my biggest problem. This is where I was like, oh yeah, I can do this and I can do that and I can, oh man. And this is how we got to a 22-part storyline that spreads out and goes far beyond and touches on SPD and Time Force and Ninja Storm and Jungle Fury in a way that I haven't seen done in Power Rangers lore yet. Like at all. Like no one ever touches on the fact that there were like 5 or 6 different mystic art, martial art, hybrid Power Ranger teams that have years of ancient culture and history and heritage, and none of them have ever heard of each other. Ninja Storm, Mystic Force, Wild Force, Power Ranger Samurai, and Jungle Fury all have that exact same plot, and none of them have ever interacted with each other. Actually, I lied. Mystic Force and Ninja Storm interacted in the Once a Ranger special. The once a Ranger, always a Ranger thing. And it was like, they never had time to bring up the fact that it's like, you do magic, right? I do ninja magic. How have we never, we need to hang out more. That was a thing. And that's what I wanted to explore, but we had to get there first. So I started where I felt most comfortable, and that was SPD. SPD Emergency. Remember that show? Love that show. Easy top 5 Power Ranger series for me. And I had to, and again, I had to go back. I had to ground myself back because I have all these grandiose plans for King and for the Psycho Rangers and for some other things down the line and for a special somebody from 1995 that I will not speak of. Not yet. I can't wait to talk about him. And it was this thing of, this is so cool. What about the first film, though? Can we go back to that? And Rise is simply this. Rise is, let me take this girl, similar to how Cole was in the Forever Red special, this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed person, and throw him in the mix of this history that he is completely... Cole lived in the jungle for most of his life. He's not aware of most modern civilized culture and things, period, point blank. Now you're throwing him into a history that he states, he's like, I never realized there were so many other Rangers out here. Like, how are there this many of us and I didn't know this whole time? And that is a constant thing in the Power Rangers universe. But this time, I'm taking that idea and I'm applying it in a more realistic fashion. One of the things that is a constant thing amongst Power Rangers shows, for every season of Power Rangers known to mankind, with the exception being Mighty Morphin when Lord Zed pulled up to the club, but Mighty Morphin closed the gap on that pretty quickly when Lord Zed first appeared. And it's this factor of they go through the same thing, yada yada yada, backstory of why the Rangers exist or why the villain exists and how the Power Ranger and why he's just now coming back. 5 random people are brought together by some mentor figure of some sort, Zordon, Gosei, Ninja, or whatever you want to fit into that, Commander Kruger, whoever you want to fit into that. They're given these Power Ranger morphers that also have access to these 5 individual Zords that form a Megazord, and they're said, hey, homie right there, that's the ops. We need to go, y'all go handle business. And they said, bet. It's morphin time. And that's basically what the series is. And over the course of the series, they go through all these life lessons and fight all these villains and get stronger. Most seasons give them new Zords at some point. Most seasons give their Red Rangers some sort of battleizer armor where he looked bulkier and he's got all these extra gizmos and gadgets. Sometimes they'll even give the Red Ranger an extra 3rd Zord on top of the secondary Zord, on top of the firstary Zord that he already got. And there's this growth and this progression. And then even with all that growth and progression and the introduction of a 6th Ranger who is somehow stronger than the entire team put together and then gets nerfed 2 episodes after he turns good, the big bad, the very big bad of whatever season it is, King Mondo, Lord Zed, Rita Repulsa, the Demon Lady from Lightspeed Rescue, Trakina from Lost Galaxy, Master Org from Wild Force, all of them pull up. What's up? Y'all want to run the hands? And they say, I bet. And they get absolutely whooped for no reason whatsoever. They get whooped. So that is the equivalent of this story. You have this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, righteous character named Billy who lives in a world where Power Rangers existed. Does she know all the history? Not really, but the history that she does know about the people that she grew up with, like Jack Landors and Sky Tate and Bridge Carson, the SPD Rangers, and Doggy Kruger, their 6th Ranger / mentor figure, and things of that nature. She wanted to be an SPD Ranger so bad. She wanted to be that next generation. She wanted to be a hero just like them. Here's the thing. This isn't a situation where something happens, yada, yada, yada. She trains, she gets the powers, and then over time, later on, she ends up having to fight the big bad. No, the big bad pulls up almost immediately and then proceeds to massacre the entire Ranger team as of current. Does she get a morpher? No. She's actually sent completely on the run, and over the course of several months, resistances and backup forces on Earth and things of that nature try to overwhelm and overpower and destroy this Ranger, and it is cutting down into this Ranger. They are cutting down into her. the world is decimated essentially. Every semblance of SPD in that universe gone, destroyed. Hundreds dead by one person, one individual, in a last-ditch effort to try to teleport off-world because their satellites have been taken down. They can't communicate with other worlds. She tries to teleport off-world, heading to Myrnoid 9. Myrnoid 9 is actually home to an SPD base that is run by the retired versions of the In Space Rangers. Hopefully, if she can get there, maybe she can get some help. Maybe even there'll be Power Rangers there on Myrnoid 9. Actually, no, Myrnoid 9 is not run by the In Space Rangers. It's run by the Lost Galaxy Rangers, who still have their swords placed in said rock. Maybe they can release that. Maybe they can help. But she kind of overdoes it. And literally, with soldiers dying around her, her best friend getting stabbed, and this demon of a ranger that is coming after them, reaching out and grabbing at her, the portal opens up, a large explosion happens, and she doesn't teleport off world. She teleports to another universe. This universe is not in 2050 like she is used to. It's in 2023. So she thinks she's time traveled, only to find out that everything she thinks she knows about the last 25 years is completely different. And the person she's looking for, that I'm like, if I'm dealing with the time travel event, let me go talk to my surrogate father figure, Landon Tate, Sky Tate's father, who should be in his 20s right about now. Sky might be an infant, something along those lines. Let me go find him. He was a member of Time Force. Maybe he can help me. Landon Tate does exist in this universe, but Landon Tate is now 3 years old. She comes to the logical conclusion she has to be in some sort of alternate reality. And the storyline follows her, having watched everything die, having watched every hero and everybody who ever tried to be a hero, including of the older surrogate father of Landon Tate that she knows, die in front of her. And this monstrosity, this John Wickian, Dark Ranger, be single-handedly responsible for hundreds of thousands of lives. She's like, I don't even want this anymore. I just want to run and hide and sob and shiver and shake in the corner. That is what she wants to do. But as fate would have it, the people that she ends up meeting on this new world, Kai, Jen, Kenny, and Z, the 5 of them end up being basically the only hope as of right now that this universe has of hunting down and destroying this ranger, who also ended up on said world, and is after believing herself that she is stuck releasing the timeline. She's like, I bet, let me just go ahead and destroy this right now where it is, and she does that. Well, she's starting to do that, and that's what leads her down this rampage and what causes these two groups to collide. Now, here's what's interesting. I wanted this thing of Billy because Billy was intended to be a gender bent version of Billy Cranston, not Billy Batson Shazam, Billy Cranston, the original Blue Ranger from Mighty Morphin. It would be that the universe that she comes from, specifically Universe 202, that universe, she is literally Billy Cranston. She is the doppelganger for Billy Cranston, but she is a female and she lives in the year 2055. Same intellect, similar personality, and she just so happens to have a trinket, something that doesn't work anymore. It shouldn't be able to work anymore at all, especially without its other path, and it's cracked. And it's a gold Triceratops coin that she wears in her necklace around her head, around her neck. Here's the thing. About halfway through the film, there's going to be a point where they're leaving and they break into this vault. because some things were confiscated from Kai and Billy that they want back. When she finds her backpack, her super bag, she turns around and feels a sensation, and sitting on one of the mantles is a very rusted over, destroyed version of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Morpher. No coins. There's a loud hum that grows, and then yink, the chain breaks right off her neck, whiplashing her a little bit, and the coin just ting right to the Morpher. That coin is sentimental to her. Along with the bag itself and the broken head, handle and head of Saba that's still functional, those are the last three things that she has from home. So she's trying to pry this coin out of the Morpher, and it's not working. So in a last effort, because they're going to race against time, they're going to get caught, she just grabs the whole thing, sticks it onto the bag seals it onto itself, and starts to analyze it, actually, and they run. I don't know if I want to do one of two things. Ain't no way. Nah, we good. So the original thought was, I want to take this Billy and this power coin, and I want it to be that despite all their best efforts, right? They put everything they have into it. They are fighting 4v1 at this point against this evil ranger. And they have somewhat of an upper hand, but they're quickly being overwhelmed and losing a little and starting to lose. And Jen stops the fight, leaving Z, Kai, and Kenny to fight. And Billy is getting up from a big wound and a big hit. And the two of them start to conversate in short. It's like, this isn't going well. It's like, I know it isn't. And it's like, we threw everything we had at it. It's like, not everything. It's like, what? It's like, my aunt told me something. She told me something before we left. She said the only way to really fight a ranger is with a ranger. And it's this thing of, And Jen knows what Billy has to do. Billy knows what she has to do. And she does. And it's this level of fear. She's not only facing the fear of using a cracked, damaged Morpher. She's facing the fear of fighting head to head against this thing, and in the way that she would have before. Because by this point, after everything that she's seen, her entire world basically being decimated, she's given up on that whole ranger life. The only reason she's even doing this is because these are my demons. I brought this here. I have a responsibility to fight this thing and bring it down. And now she is standing face to face with the harbinger of death that took her world and took her life and threw it completely upside down. And she is holding this Morpher, and she, it's more, I don't even know if I want her to say it's morphin time. I feel like I would just want a slow-mo sequence of the boom, and then boom, and her to morph, throw the wands, yikes, psych, and then knock this ranger clean out, doom, just before demorphing and curling over in pain. Well, actually, not demorphing just yet. I wanted to knock her out, and then I wanted to take the Delta morphers that the SPD Rangers have. I wanted to take that one off of said Ranger. She demorphs. She has a little bit of pain. And before she can pass out, she's like, "No, we have to finish this." And it's like, she's thinking about, killing her as a ranger. Or, you know what? That's going to be. He's going to take the Delta Morpher. And she's thinking about killing her as a ranger. And pulls out the old blicky, the power gun. She's thinking about it. Thinking about it real good, too. And she stops. She puts it back and she demorphs. And she has the ranger. She has the SPD thing in her other hand. And she takes that. She says, "Judgment mode." Boom. That's going to be the sequence. That was what I was thinking I wanted the sequence to be. But now I'm under the impression of, what if instead... Here's the thing. Kai is my favorite character because he's the Red Ranger. And I wanted Billy to be the first one I do because I feel like a Blue Ranger needs some... how would you put it? Some love. Some attention, some respect. And I think, I wanted to do in the order of blue, yellow, pink, then red, and then mosey on back over to like a weird mix because of how 4 and 5 go. And then from there, I don't know what to do about green and black just yet. I'm going to figure that out, but that's where I've gotten so far. And each one is a story where it's centered around and the focus around the main character that we're following for the majority of the film is that specific color ranger. But now I have this other thought. This storyline sounds great about Billy, but what if the storyline was surrounding Kai, this Red Ranger who's looking for more information about his brother? His brother is actually Shane Clark, the Ninja Storm, the Red Ninja Storm Ranger. And he was the last Red Ranger to ever be, made, created, instated into the crew. You know what I'm saying? And it's this thing of he wants to find out more information. He runs into Billy, gets roped into this situation that because of his morals and because of his background and the way of the code of the ninja, he ends up getting roped into this fight to fight this Dark Ranger. And boom, he's going to fight it and finds out that it's a really good fighter and has to bust out his old sword skills. He has to train a little bit harder for it. He gains this new ability. And in shonen anime form, he's the one who, using this rare ability that he has all to himself, he takes the sword actually that was his brother's, the only Ninja Storm weapon to survive. He takes that, he yeets that sucker, comes back and slices and leaves a permanent damage mark on this ranger. That's when, because of Billy and her history and what's going on, she's the one that takes the judgment, that takes the Delta Morpher, pulls out the judgment call, and it's this moment of realizing how much this means to her. And as a Red Ranger, it's like, do it. And it's like, judgment call. Da-dom. And then the same sequence happens at the end. Now saying it, and then for Billy with the coin would be seen, that sequence with the metal magnet thing, that would happen. And it would never get brought up again at all in the film. You would just know about it. And it would be like, hey, yo, what happened with the power coin thing? And it'd be like, the Blue Ranger will return. That's it. That's all. That would be cold. But I think now that I'm saying both out loud, I think the level of depth and I think the reasoning behind Billy stands well enough that I'm going to keep the original plot. One morph sequence in this film, and it's that very ending morph, and it's going to be this thing of her becoming this hero and even making the choice as a hero. Is she going to completely annihilate this threat that has taken hundreds of thousands of lives on her world? Is she going to seek out this type of brand of justice for all the people that died? Or is she going to do the right thing? Is she going to do the honorable, the just thing and just press judgment mode? And that's what she does and everything. And there's this moment with judgment mode that's going to be so fun to portray on screen. And yeah. So the reason I wanted to do all this is because I just wanted to verbally do this and also make up my mind about it. And I will say this much. Let me show y'all something. I came up with this while trying to clean my bedroom. I know you can't see everything because I don't want to show you everything. But all I'm going to say is, go on ahead and do your chores while you trying to make up stuff. You working on a book, you working on a screenplay or whatever, go ahead and throw whatever playlist you got for the thing, or make a playlist for the thing so that your mind is in that mode and in that zone. Start cleaning up. Start doing mundane things. Clean your shower, do some dishes, clean your bedroom up, pick up some clothes, fold some laundry, whatever it may be, because I'm trying to tell you, the ideas will just start flooding. And if you're like me, keep a camera and a microphone laying around. That way you can dictate and record and be able to hold this as a record. Might take you longer with that cleaning process, but as is the way of the procrastinator. All right, see y'all around.